Hello, 6th and 7th graders. Welcome back to Bible. We're going to continue learning about vows and promises to the Lord. So today we're talking about Hannah. Hannah is one of my favorite Bible characters. She is one of the women that I really have studied and looked at. And she's an amazing woman of God. And she really shows how when we make a vow, we need to be quick to respond and quick to hold our commitments true. Make sure that we're completing those vows the way we said we're going to. And so when you look at Hannah, most of you probably already know that she's the mother of Samuel. And Hannah had been married for a very long time, but had no children. And in fact, Hannah is in competition with her husband's other wife. The other wife has several children. She has none. And we can see according to 1 Samuel 1, verse 8, her husband's concerned about her because Hannah is his favorite, and he's very concerned about her. She's not eating, and she's always crying. And he says, okay, well, let's take a trip to the temple. And so he takes her to the temple to give a sacrifice to the Lord. And when she goes before the Lord, she makes a vow. In 1 Samuel 1, 10 and 11, we see that she vows to the Lord that if he would give her a son, she would give him back to the Lord and dedicate him to the Lord's service. Now, today we don't look at that as, well, that shouldn't be that hard. Hannah's time it was. This meant giving up her child the minute they were after a year old. Usually around a year old. That means they had to take their baby to the temple and say, okay, he's here to be trained and dedicated to the Lord. That might mean that they might not see their son except for maybe once or twice a year when they came back to the temple. So this is a huge commitment that she's vowing to give her, if God would give her a son, to give him back to the Lord. And when she's there, Eli the priest hears her. In fact, he thinks she's drunk. And he approaches her in verse 17 and talks with her, and she's like, no, I'm not drunk. Here's what's going on. And he says, oh, you know what? God is going to answer your prayer. Go in peace. And with this in mind, Hannah's attitude totally changes. She's no longer sad, and she begins to eat. And pretty soon, she's praising the Lord, and soon she has a son. And immediately we see in verses 25 through 28, she keeps her vow. She doesn't delay, like we talked about yesterday. She wasn't one of those people who delayed. She took her son Samuel to the temple and gave him back to the Lord for God's service, just as she had promised. Hannah is faithful in her vow to the Lord, her promise and covenant before God. We need to be the same. When we make a commitment, a vow before the Lord, we need to keep it, even when it's difficult. All right, so we'll see you back here tomorrow. Complete your workbook pages, and we will continue with a key part of making decisions.